This is my James Citizen road bike that I converted into an e-bike. I bought it the bike came as a kit from ebike.ca, Vancouver bike shop that's very knowledgeable about converting bikes. That's all they deal in. And I bought an 8-speed rear wheel drive and operates on 48 volts and 48 volts at 750 watts. And then I bought a separate battery rated at 48 volts, 17.5 amp hour, which gives me a mileage range of around 80 miles plus or minus, depending on if there's hills or not. And then there's a controller here and a display up here. I also keep my original odometer, and then I have a thumb throttle that's pretty handy. I like a thumb instead of a twist. And then I have a potentiometer that determines on how much help the battery or the motor is going to give you. If I turn it all the way down, the motor's only working minimum. And this can be all adjusted on the controls. You can adjust all the settings on everything. Then I also have an e-brake right here that connects onto the handle for the rear brake, and I have a rim brake. So I have it when you pull the brake, it disconnects the motor, so it's not working anymore. And I just have it on the rear brake. My handbrake on the front wheel is just the same, and that's the one I use most of the time. Very seldom do I use the rear brake. The display can be set to indicate all the parameters that you want to read. On this here I'm showing voltage, watt hours per mile currently is 17.1, and then you can press the right button and go through the different displays that you can set up. The battery is removable just by pulling it up. And lifting it out. And this is the way I mounted it onto the frame of the bike. You have 2 nut inserts in here and 2 screws that hold this in. I couldn't use the nuts for the water bottle holders because they weren't the right spacings, and I moved this battery mount down as far as I could to give room for the controller up above. These are the threaded inserts that hold the battery mount. I did a larger one, a thread size of 1024 versus what they said, which was smaller. just to get a smaller mount. So you got to mark it on the frame, use a pin punch to determine where your holes are going to be, and then a couple drills, one small one to drill a lead hole, and then a larger one to drill the final size. And you can buy a special tool to insert these and squeeze them out so they're nice and tight. The battery comes with an on-off button and then a plug that charges. You have a 2 amp battery charger that comes with it. You just plug it in. And it takes about 5-6 hours to charge. And first time I charged it, it used 830 watt hours at a cost of 11 cents. There's also an indicator on there to tell you how much the battery charge is remaining. Pushing the center button, you get green lights which turn red as the battery power is depleted. The last time I charged a battery, it wasn't all the way discharged, but I charged it up to 740 watt hours at a cost of 11 cents. Pretty cheap power. I also installed a torque arm here to handle the torque of the motor. I installed a 24-pole pedal assist system, and this was a little bit of work to install. You have to take off this crank, the pedal, and they sell a special tool that screws in here, and then a center screw, and you screw that in, and it will, it'll pull the pedal off. This is a tapered shaft on here, and it was on pretty tight. So I used this regular wheel puller here I had, and I had to grind down the edges so it would fit behind the wheel, behind the crank arm, and then I just turned the screw here and was able to pull the pedal off very easy. It's amazing how tight that is on there, and then you just slip this on. After you gotta loosen up the cable going to the rear brake, and also the cable for the shifter that run along the bottom here. So you loosen those up and then slide this on, and there's grooves in this that the cable goes into to guide it, and then you have to readjust your brake and your shifter in the back. The rear wheel came with a tire. It has a double-walled rim, but the tire was too wide for my bike, so I had to remove it, and I put on a wider tire that was wider than the original tire. I wanted to get as wide a tire as I could, and it works very good. Oh, the cable runs out of the motor, and it's got a protective guard over here. It runs up along the shaft, and the other thing you gotta make sure the plugs are all compatible. There's so many different kinds of plugs on the market, but this came as a kit, so everything was compatible. And then the wires, brake cables and that, all run up to the easy bike controller, and then cables out of that run up to the front of the bike and connects to everything else up there. The easy bike motor, it has a planetary gear system in it, so that when you're freewheeling it riding forward, it doesn't slow down the bike like a direct drive bike would. And it doesn't have regenerative charging of the battery, which I don't do that many hills, so I don't really need that feature. If you did have that though and you did hills, you'd probably add about 10% more battery capacity. So the gears can be changed, or nylon gears, and the planetary gears are steel, so it'd be easy to replace them if they ever wore out. So there are plenty of detailed information on the ebike.ca about installation, and you'll get a lot of instruction with the kit and online, YouTube. But I spent quite a few months learning about e-bikes, and the advantages of doing your own bike is you've already got a bike you like, and when you convert it, you can make, I made the battery 750. I got a big, the wheel motor 750 watt. The battery, I bought a large one, 17.5, and I can travel up to 80 miles on a charge, and it also has a type of plug where I could add a second battery and mount it on the back carriage if I wanted to even do over 100 miles charge, which I have no plans of doing right now. But you can customize your bike and get one, I think myself, is much better than those ones on the market, which will run for $3,000 up to $10,000. And you can have it the way you want it. I really like the potentiometer dial up there that I control how much power the motor is being used. And I also like the thumb control, the thumb throttle, which if I hold that down for 3 seconds in any position, it'll go into cruise control after 3 seconds. And this is really a nice feature that I can use if you're getting a little tired of pedaling. Just put in cruise control. You can still pedal if you want. You know, I put it in, say, going 10 miles an hour, and then I'll pedal fast and travel 20 miles an hour, and then just coast back down to 10. It's just a nice feature. The other thing I like to do is when I approach an intersection, I'll turn the potentiometer up all the way, and then when I get to the intersection, check for traffic, and then put the throttle on, and it'll zoom me across the road real quick. Just a nice safety feature. But I really love converting my bike into an e-bike. 10 cents a charge, and it goes up to 80 miles. I only have to charge a bike maybe once or twice a week on my travels. Now I got the throttle at half speed. I'm going 21 miles an hour. To quarter speed. Now I'm going about 14 miles an hour. So you can use a potentiometer to control your cruising speed. And I can also then pedal and bring my speed up to whatever I want. The cruise feature is really nice, I think. It's a 42-degree day out. It's a little on the cool side. We're in cruise control about 25%. Going up the hill now. And I'm pedaling a little bit. Get up to 50%. I'm going about 20 miles an hour. Cut it back down to around 15%. Oh, with cruise control on, I can still pedal and increase the speed. And cut it down to minimum cruise. Or just helping a little bit. Or hit the thumb throttle again and take it out of cruise and then just pedal assist. It's at a minimum now, so I'm mostly using my own pedal effort to go forward. And if I increase the potentiometer, it'll enable the motor to help me more.